drive, Curry flip, Curry good!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Wiggins misses a three, and that's a huge road win for the Knicks. And another tough-to-swallow home loss for the Warriors against an undermanned Knicks squad. That's 3 consecutive home defeats now for Golden State as they drop in a tie in the loss column with the Lakers in the 9-10 spot.
Yeah, another ugly one inside Chase Center as the Warriors get beat by the Knicks 119-112. We welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson here on KNBR, the sports leader, as it is a pleasure to be at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, as we typically are. But, just a real disheartening loss for the Warriors in this one tonight. And they let the Knicks take it to them from the start in this one. An undermanned Knicks squad, no Julius Randle, no OG Anunoby. And really, unfortunately, what has been the theme for the Warriors over the course of this entire season is any momentum they build on the road. And the Warriors built a lot of momentum on the road early on in the season. Really, the first road trip of the season, the Warriors put together a nice little run. They had 7 of the first 9 on the road, and they came back home 6-3. And then they proceeded to lose 5 straight games, and Draymond Green got suspended, and there was a fight between Klay Thompson and Jaden McDaniels of Minnesota. And really, from the very first homestand of the season, extended one, the Warriors have just not had it inside Chase Center, and they've been unable to take any of the momentum that they've consistently built on the road, including with a 2 out of 3 in San Antonio, Dallas, and the Lakers here just last week, and they just can't come home and have it translate. Knicks take it to the Warriors. Warriors find themselves now, again, right back in that difficult position where they're basically playing for the 9 and the 10. Again, they give back the game that they won in L.A. the other night against the Lakers, and now 18 losses on the home floor in 35 games. 17-18 are the Warriors in 35 home games with 6 to go, and that's just not good enough. I mean, you add it to the list of the things that the Warriors are going to look at when this season ultimately ends for them, and why wasn't it better? Why weren't they able to be the team that they envisioned themselves being before the season started? Why have they not met their own expectations? And the inability to win on the home floor has been a huge part of that. Again, now under 500 are the Warriors at 17-18 after they were 33-8 a year ago. They flipped it on the road. They've been good on the road, but again, just unable to sustain it when they come back in and play on the Chase Center hardwood. 808 KNBR is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text here tonight on Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. As just disheartening from the tip tonight. The Warriors were down 15-4 in the first 5 minutes, and they had 1 field goal over that span. It was a Jonathan Kuminga little pull-up jumper, and then the lead grew to 18-4, 20-6, and the Warriors would never lead in this game. The Knicks put their imprint on the game in terms of defense and physicality and hitting the offensive glass, and the Warriors were basically on their heels for the entire night because of that. They did get sparks from Trace Jackson-Davis off the bench, but tonight was the night where, you look up and it's, Stephen Curry, 8 of 20. He did end up with 27 points. Kuminga, other than his scoring tonight, it was really a rough game. He struggled at times with the physicality and really was not active in other ways. 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 rebound in 26 minutes. Defensively, the energy and the intensity for the most part wasn't there tonight for Kuminga. You always start with your top 2 players, but Draymond Green, 1 of 7. Andrew Wiggins, 2 of 8. Wiggins was not good in this one. Podziemski did not provide any scoring punch and was a minus 15 in 25 minutes. I mean, really, other than Klay Thompson, who didn't shoot it well, but did hit 4 of 9 from 3, 5 of 14 overall, you look at who are the only plus players for the Warriors. It was Clay, it was TJD, and it was Gary Payton II, who at times it wasn't even his best game, but he was still, I thought, one of the better Warrior players on the night in this game. He kind of sparked them a little bit there before the half. The Warriors went on a 10-0 run that really was sparked by Payton. He came in the game for Wiggins with Kuminga, and then Payton and Kuminga were both kind of going to work defensively there late, which sparked that 10-0 run in the second quarter. But, Chris Paul was sticking jumpers. Decent night for him. It was the bench that was basically keeping the Warriors from getting blown out. But the Knicks had pushed it all the way up to 14 and just seemingly had every single answer for the Warriors. It was 59-44 before that 10-0 run for Golden State there late in the second quarter. But, just not enough intensity, not enough energy, not enough physicality for a team that is going to bring that on a night-in, night-out basis, regardless of who's out there on the floor playing for them. And that it's ingrained in who the Knicks are. And the Knicks imposed their will, I thought, tonight on the Warriors. And the Warriors never really quite could get off the mat, unfortunately for them, because of it. And it all adds up to a pretty disheartening loss when you look at the end of the night and a 116-109 final, which puts the Warriors now back in a position where they're 35-32 on the season. And you start looking at the Western Conference standings. The Kings are going to survive a scare in Sacramento. They were down late to the Grizzlies, who are the next team coming in to Chase Center on Wednesday night. But they're going to escape in overtime with a win. They were able to tie the game late, force overtime, and they're going to win. So the Warriors are going to lose ground to Sac. Dallas got a big win yesterday against Denver on the Kyrie buzzer beater, and they give back the game that they just earned over the Lakers. And so the Warriors are 10th as the Lakers were able to bounce back and earn themselves a blowout victory tonight over Atlanta. So basically, it's getting to the point where you're playing for 9 and 10. I think at this point, Phoenix is now 8. You're still 3.5 back of them, 3 in the loss column. But the reality of the situation is you're not going to have the tiebreaker, so then that gets tough, although Phoenix does have a pretty daunting schedule here. But 8 is 10 over 500. So how do you get to 10 over 500 if you're the Warriors now when you look at 15 games to go? Well, how do you get to 10 over 500? You gotta be 7 over in 15 games. And that basically means you got to go 11-4 to even put yourself in that kind of conversation. And frankly, the Warriors just have not been good enough at home to think that they can go 11-4 over the final 15 games to earn themselves the position that they're going to want to be in. So frustrating night for Golden State. Just a bad game start to finish. I mean, they never had the lead in this one. I think the closest they got was 4, but not enough offense early. But I thought the key to this one, too, was the fact that the Knicks were able to get really comfortable offensively early in the game, and the Warriors allowed them to get going. And once they got going, then they were tough to stop in the key stretches when the Warriors were making runs and tried to crawl their way back in the game. The Knicks just always had something to go to. They always had an offensive rebound to get. They would always you look up at this one, and Miles McBride in this one for the Knicks has a career night, 29 points, 6 of 9 from 3. He had the most three-pointers he'd ever made in a game in his NBA career by the early part of the second quarter. First 3 minutes of the second quarter, McBride's having a career night from 3. Knicks at 14, basically matched the Warriors from deep. And while the Warriors were getting what they wanted in the paint, it ended up being a 50-50 split there. Knicks with a little advantage at the free throw line. But again, I thought they made this impose your will kind of a game early, and that's what the Tom Thibodeau teams do. And the Warriors just weren't there to be able to match it in any way. Let's get to the phones. 808 KNBR. We got a lot of people that want to talk. It is Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader, and we'll get it going with Adrian in Santa Rosa. Hey, Adrian.
Hey, what's up, JD?
What's going on, man? Tough night for the Warriors, to be sure.
Yeah, definitely rough. I just want to say, Wiggins this offseason has to go. I feel like he's just mentally checked out. And one other thing I want to say is, why does Pajemski get such a long leash? Like, I mean, he isn't really contributing anything. He's out there for what? He played like 25 minutes tonight?
He had 25 tonight. Yeah, and I'll save my comments on Wiggins until after. I'll let you finish your point. But, yeah, Pajemski had 25 minutes tonight and really didn't do a lot tonight. Didn't score, a couple of boards, a couple of assists. I know Steve Kerr likes to have him out there to connect other groups, but there are nights when others aren't scoring where Pajemski not scoring, I think, becomes a little bit more problematic. Tonight was one of those nights.
No, I definitely skew there. All right, thanks, JD. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, appreciate it, Adrian. As far as Wiggins, like tonight was a bad Wiggins night. Like flat out, point blank, end of story, indefensible, no other way around it. He did have 8 rebounds. He had 7 points and was 2 of 9 and looked a little listless. He looked a little unmotivated, to be honest. And unfortunately, there's too many games like that for Andrew Wiggins. Just when you think he has a really good game in L.A., helps the Warriors get a big win. The Warriors really needed it. At 16 points, was pretty efficient. He's defending. The Warriors need him for games like this. The Warriors need Wiggins for the teams that really want to put a defensive imprint on things and really lay the physicality and the athleticism on the Warriors. Like Wiggins is one of the guys that can combat that. But I thought tonight was one of the worst Wiggins games we've seen in recent memory. And he only plays 24 minutes, but Steve Kerr tonight, I think, got caught in trying to find the players who were playing well, and that led to some different lineup combinations. And, we've seen when the Warriors get into some of these different lineup combinations, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to function as consistently throughout a 48-minute game. So there was more Chris Paul tonight because there was a little less Pajemski. Wiggins had to be out there, I think, more than Steve Kerr wanted him to be because Trace Jackson-Davis, who was a real positive tonight off the bench, 19 points on 9 of 9 with 9 boards and 3 blocks. Like TJD was doing it all for the Warriors. But how do you want to have Draymond out there. So if TJD and Draymond are going to be out there, and Steve Kerr talked about it before the game, playing those two together in certain lineup combinations against certain opponents, well, that leaves Kuminga, who did not, in my opinion, have his best game tonight, out of the fray down the stretch because Kuminga isn't viewed by the Warriors as a 3. So Clay's out there because he had 18. Chris Paul's out there because he was playing well. Then you got Curry, but if it's those 3, then you basically can only have Draymond and TJD. Or if you want another wing defender out there, you need to put Wiggins out there, and then you can't have Kuminga out there. And so I appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. You kind of get caught between a rock and a hard place as Steve Kerr was tonight because too many of the regulars that are counted on, unfortunately, didn't play well. And I think Wiggins is right at the top of that list. Drew Down in Tracy is next here on KNBR, the Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD here on a Monday night. And, to see the Knicks do what they did tonight, Drew Down, shorthanded or not, I don't care what they did in Sacramento the other night. They basically did the same thing to the Kings that they did to the Warriors. But it's just another missed opportunity for the Warriors to gain momentum off of a really good road trip.
What's going on, JD? I feel like lately I only been calling after the win, so I'm like, nah, I can't be a front runner. I gotta show my face when we lose. But I think the word I heard you use earlier was disheartening. It wasn't like a horrible loss, blah blah blah. The Knicks are a good team, but if the Warriors really wanted to try to really make a run and climb up the standings, this was a game that they had to have, especially at home. Shout out McBride was balling, man. He was making some cold-blooded shots. I always feel like I hear fans say, "Oh, it's always some random player that goes off against the Warriors." Well, if I flip it around, it's like, we need somebody from the Warriors who's, to be an unsung hero and step up. So, it goes both ways. That first quarter was disgusting, completely flat, turnovers, not focused. It's just, you can't come out in a, I don't want to say a must-win game, but in a game that you more or less need to have, you can't come out like that. There's just no excuse for that. So that was just really frustrating to see. I thought J.K. in that second quarter was his best stretch of the game. He was super active on defense, had I think 1 or 2 steals, dunks. Chris Paul was making some big shots when we were really struggling. So we had a nice close to end the half. But yeah, just couldn't get it done. Pods, Draymond, Wiggins, 2 points at halftime. 3 of your starters combined with 2 points at half. They finished the game. The 3 of them combined 7 points. And I thought a couple of Wiggins buckets were late. I don't want to call it garbage time, but it was kind of game was out of reach. You can't. This team is not good enough defensively to get 7 points from 3 of your starters and expect to win the game. So I feel like I love Pods. I don't know. It seems like lately, and I could be wrong, but it seems like the last handful of games or so, he just hasn't really been able to make an impact. He still has some charges and the other stuff, but offensively, if you're going to start and play 30 minutes, I know he didn't play that many tonight, but you gotta give us more than 2 points. So I think maybe 0 points he had actually, but so I don't know. Yeah, those 3 guys to me, it's not so much about what the Knicks did, but what Warriors didn't do. That's just they're not going to win any games with 3 starters scoring 7 points. Trace Jackson Davis I thought was great. It seemed like one of his best games, might be his best game of the season. He was awesome. To close the game, I'm not sure about that TJD Draymond. It sounds good in theory, but offensively, it just seemed kind of clunky because I feel like the strength of both players are pick and roll. So, Draymond Curry, 1-5 pick and roll, that's our bread and butter, but Trace is also probably best in the pick and roll. So it seemed to be a little clunky offensively. So that's something that they got to figure out. And it just seems like the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, he's known for this. He just rode his guys. 47 minutes for McBride, 48 minutes for Hart. Hart was really good. And the Warriors, kind of distribute the minutes. The Knicks, they rode their horses. And the Warriors, we have some horses, but we also got some, maybe some other animals that are nice, but not quite as good. They're useful, but they're not thoroughbred. So I thought that's kind of something, especially in the fourth quarter of games. We continue to blow leads in the fourth quarter, and I feel like that's gut check time, right? Got the 5 best players on the court, and a lot of times they just seem to come up short. So I feel like got to buckle up. I think this is, we're a 9-10 seed. I don't see us getting any higher. Obviously, anything could happen, but I don't know, man. This is disheartening loss. I mean, there's still a lot of time left, but yeah, there's a lot to figure out with the rotations and what's effective. But yeah, this is. I think the game was lost almost in the first quarter. Maybe that's silly to say, but they made their runs, but those runs could have tied the game instead of bringing them within 6 or 8. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Drew. Down. Yeah, they were down 20-6 in the first quarter, 6 minutes in. And they had 6 points basically at the 6-minute mark of the first quarter. That ain't going to cut it. And the Knicks never trailed in the game from that point on. And so, when you allow a team to get comfortable, you allow a team to impose their will on you, especially a team that plays the way the Knicks do, and it can be a long night. And the Warriors found it to be a long night for that specific reason. All right, 808 KNBR. We got a couple of phone lines open. We're going to dive into the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody on YouTube and Twitch and the Twitter X stream as we're out here at Harmonic Brewing. Stop by and say hi. We did have one gentleman stop by in the first segment. Really appreciate it. We will pause here briefly. We got Sounds of Silver. We got fun with numbers, although not a lot of fun tonight because the Warriors get beat by the Knicks 119-112. It is KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
What?
From Chef Curry to CP3, we're repping the Bays team. Dubs OT with John Dickinson now continues. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Dominguez three, short. Long rebound. Hart punches it ahead to DiVincenzo for a three, and it's good. What a heads-up play by Hart. Literally punching the ball forward.
Yeah, Steve Kerr's saying, can you do that? I don't think you're allowed to do that. He's upset. Steve Kerr, we get a look at Steve Kerr saying, you can't punch the ball.
Yeah, Steve Kerr was upset. He thought that was an illegal punch of the ball. Either way, it was a rough swing for the Warriors. Dante DiVincenzo shooting the three ball at a much higher clip this year for the Knicks than he did for the Warriors last year. 3 of his 18, 4 of 8 from 3 for DDV. All 5 Knicks starters in double figures, including Josh Hart, who had a 10, 11, and 11 triple-double in 48 minutes. Josh Hart played all 48 tonight for the Knicks. Miles McBride played 47 and had a career-high 29 as New York beats the Warriors 119-112. Jalen Brunson doing what Jalen Brunson does, 34, 5 boards, 7 assists, just controlling the game. As you know, tonight the Warriors sent back home with another loss and a tough one. And you know, kind of the night as we welcome you back here to Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. 808 KNBR is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text. We do have a couple of text messages to get to in the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. We are going to dig into the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube, Twitch, and the Twitter/X stream on KNBR as well, as the Warriors now back to 3 games over 500, back to 10th in the West. I always think of things, and we'll bring in Greg Silver here for the first time tonight. I always, on this show, like to think of, all right, let's dive into the actual game first. Why did the Warriors win? Why did they lose? Tonight they lost. Who played well? Who didn't play well? It was kind of a hodgepodge tonight as far as who did and didn't play well, which I think left Steve Kerr kind of struggling to find the right 5-man combinations to be able to win this game. But then you also separate yourself and you look at the big picture, especially with 15 games to go now in the season, and the Warriors sitting at 35 and 32. And tonight is one of those nights, big picture, where they get a huge win in LA, and it starts to make you think. And we spend a good chunk of the show Saturday night talking about, you know, is this team on to something? Do you feel better about a potential play-in matchup against the Lakers? Could they make a run? And then I think tonight's the kind of night that shows you that this team probably isn't going to get on a run because they just are not consistent enough and able to sustain a high level of play over an extended enough period of time to get on that streak that Steve Kerr had mentioned middle of last week, where he says, you know, well, any team can get on a roll, win 10 in a row. I know he talked about urgency prior to the Laker game, urgency in terms of, hey, it has to start now. 30 days left in the regular season, going back to Saturday, 17 games. Urgency has to start now. The Warriors had no urgency tonight, and I think it's just too difficult for this team to consistently bring that urgency. They have it some nights, mostly on the road, which I think is somewhat problematic that they can't manufacture that urgency at home, especially against shorthanded teams. But it is a reality, I think, at this point for who this team is. Completely out of the realm of possibility they get to 8. Not mathematically, but I think practically this team is finding themselves, for the most part, locked in to what's going to be a 9-10 matchup, potentially against the Lakers. Who knows? We'll see what happens with Phoenix. But all in all, I think big picture tonight shows that it doesn't bode well, because it's a team that's not the most talented team in the Knicks, but has an identity, has a style of play, has a physicality to them, has a way that they're going to go about attacking you. And when they hit the Warriors with that, and we're talking about a full-strength Warriors team with their top rotation guys all available and ready to play, the Knicks just knocked the Warriors right off the balance and kept them off balance enough throughout the course of the game to win. That doesn't bode well against more talented teams and playoff teams in a big-time setting. It just doesn't, especially when you may not be the most talented team top to bottom, and I think that's the other reality that's in play in some of these playoff series. So we bring in Greg Silver. We'll get his initial thoughts on this one. 808 KNBR, the number to give us a call or shoot us a text. Some text messages coming up, but we do want to set up our question of the night, which goes to the great Greg Silver. He mentioned it to me during the break, and we'll ride it out. But good evening to you, Greg. I'm going to sip on a Kolsch here. Cheers to everybody at Harmonic. We got Grace and Mike. I was hanging out with Jimmy earlier. Cheers to you, my friend. And have at it, man. Question of the night, general thoughts, whatever's on your mind.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, JD. As you know, JD, I'm a little bit of a runner and a scrambler at times. So we had Sports Phone going. We had the Blake Snell news breaking. We had a busy night here at the Leader. And I printed out 2 pieces of paper that I'll show to everybody on the camera. That is the final box score and the first quarter box score. You spent a good chunk talking about the first quarter in segment number 1. And this is what I would say to lead into the question of the night. I understand Klay Thompson having age and injuries catch up to him and maybe not always being consistent. I understand young players maybe struggling on defense sometimes, like Kuminga or Moody or Trace Jackson-Davis having matchup problems against veteran players. Like, I can get that. I can understand Steph Curry not always playing A-plus basketball. But what I can't understand is the lack of focus, the lack of urgency, and just expecting to show up at home and get it done in March when you're fighting to be the 9th seed, which traditionally would have had you out of the playoffs. So I just think that this is 2 years in a row now where everybody is blindly turning the other cheek and saying, well, maybe they can flip the switch. I think the flip the switch thing is complete BS, if I'm being honest. And I just have to say that selectively good is not good. So our question of the night tonight, following this loss, is, are the Warriors truly capable of upsetting a higher seed if they get into the playoffs? I have 3 options for us, and you can always reply with one of your own. Option 1 is in Curry we trust, which has some validity with him still playing at an incredibly high level and will be the best player in a good handful of playoff series. The second option is head says no, heart equals yes, which I can also fully respect. And then third option is too inconsistent for 7, as in 7 games. I think it's pretty clear where I stand after that opening monologue. I'm not overreacting too strongly to one loss and saying the season is over. But to me, I can't just be sitting here in early to mid-March, late March, in fact. The days are ticking by. They're getting behind me. And saying, well, you know what? You're 17-18 at home and you never led in a game. And yeah, I know the Knicks are good, but what makes you think, being in the predicament that you are, that you can show up and expect to just outwork Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, who, by the way, was your teammate for a lot of you last year, and Jalen Brunson and Tom Thibodeau? Like, the Knicks are a gritty team, even if they're missing a couple guys. So of all the opponents to go and do this against, it doesn't make any sense to me. I love the Warriors. I've grown up with this team through the good and the bad, and I will always love this core and never just say it's over for them. But you can't be this level of inconsistent. And for me to say on the air, yeah, you know, I think they're going to show up in April with home court disadvantage, although maybe that's a good thing, and upset a top seed that's been playing better all year. Like, that's just not reality to me.
Can they play all 7 games on the road in a best of 7 series? Can they defer? Can the Warriors, even if they get a play-in tournament home game, defer and say, no, you know what? Joe Lacob would not like that, by the way, for the financial component. I know many have noted this, including the great Tim Kawakami. The Warriors' model in terms of revenue is based on playoff games. Like, it's, you know, heavily based on, like, that's really where they make a lot of hay, being able to play extra games beyond the 41 that are scheduled. So turning those down is not going to happen. I can tell you that much. But But yeah, I mean, and I don't think flip the switch has been a thing this year, Greg, as much as it was last year. I think that was sort of the talking point off of a team that was the defending champs. Like, oh, they'll get it going when they need to get it going and can get it going. I feel like this team is tonight. I don't know. I don't feel like tonight was effort as much as it was they just can't do it consistently. Like they can't find it consistently. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
The unit looked disjointed though. And granted, you were there. You were in the environment.
But why? Like that? Like I don't understand. Like it's a group that's now 7-3 together.
Yeah.
Right. It's they got knocked off their skis a little bit in the first 5-6 minutes of the game. And let's be honest, they never fully recovered. They never had the lead in the game. The closest they got was 4, and the Knicks had answers at every turn. Like it was a matter of, and yeah, I know, you don't have Mitchell Robinson, you don't have Randall, you don't have OG Anunoby. I mean, the Knicks were down 3 of their better players. I mean, Brunson obviously I think has emerged to be their best player. So they still had their best player, but they probably didn't have their second, third, and fifth best players. I mean, and yet they come in and they hit the Warriors in the mouth immediately, and the Warriors just can't get it together throughout the course of the remainder of the night. That to me is the most frustrating component. And again, I don't think it's necessarily effort-based. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm wrong. 808 KNBR, you can give me a call or shoot me a text. You can agree, you can disagree. I just think tonight shows that this run isn't happening. And you can go back and say, well, JD 14-4 over 18. Now they're 15-5 basically over the last 20 that they've had Stephen Curry and had the majority of their core in place and playing together. Maybe they get right back on it on Wednesday against Memphis. They should. And then you kind of go from there. But I don't know. Tonight is just it's just disheartening for either way you look at it. If you think it's an effort thing, if you think it's a talent thing, is it a matchups thing? It's teams that can really hit the Warriors in the mouth with physicality, I think still bother them. And again, it wasn't so much that the Warriors couldn't be effective on the interior. They were when they got Trace Jackson-Davis in the game. But what the Knicks did was they got the Warriors disjointed enough with their typical lineup combinations that they basically couldn't figure out the right 5 to put on the floor at any point. The game got off script. The game got off schedule basically from the jump. And, you look up and down the lineup and it's, all right, Chris Paul plays well tonight. Klay Thompson had 18. So you need him out there. Really the bench. I mean, the bench, think about that. Greg, did you see the bench numbers tonight? The Warriors bench outscored the Knicks bench 60-15. They quadrupled the Knicks bench and lost the game by 7 because the starters tonight for the Warriors got their collective asses kicked. They got their asses kicked tonight. And you look at the plus, Pajemski minus 15, Kuminga minus 11, Wiggins minus 10, Draymond minus 7 and 1 of 7. I mean, the Pajemski Draymond Wiggins 3 for 18 for 9 points is some of the ugliest combined stat lines that you will ever see. And so, you start to look through it and it's like, all right, well, who are the best, who are the best 5 tonight? I mean, could you make a case that Steve Kerr should have ripped up the rotation sheet tonight and just played CP, Klay, Steph, Kuminga, and TJD? Could you make that case tonight? That it's just roll with the guys who were doing the scoring? And again, would you have gotten enough stops together? How many minutes has that group played together at this point this season? I just think things got off script for the Warriors tonight. and it wound up adding up to the loss that they wound up taking. Let's get into the YouTube chat. 808 KNBR is the number. It is Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. Let's go to, let me see here as I got to switch screens. Let's go to Mark and Millbrae on the phone lines before we get into the YouTube chat. Hey, Mark, you're on KNBR, the sports leader.
What's up, JD? Coming back from the game tonight, so with a couple of annoying Knicks friends of mine, really disgusted. I didn't expect tonight to be an easy game, even with a couple injuries that the Knicks have. You know how good they are. They play elite defense. They're well coached. To me, Jalen Brunson, he's been playing like a top 10 player, even though he doesn't get the notoriety because he's not very flashy. He's, to me, as big time as any player the last couple of years since he's been with the Knicks. So I thought tonight would be a grind-out type game, and I thought the Warriors would show up and pull it out, but unfortunately I was wrong. I just hated the way they came out. They put themselves in a hole, and even though by halftime they were able to cut that deficit into the game, you have to work their way up so badly. And what the Knicks do is they grind you out. And so you get guys like Brunson. To me, I don't know how the hell you allow a guy like McBride, who's a role player, go off for, I don't know, he probably had, 30-something points tonight. That just
29, career high 29 for McBride.
That's inexcusable. We expect that from Brunson, but from a guy like him who was continually hitting shots, big-time shots, they were basically daggers there. Every time the Warriors were attempting to make a run, that could not happen. As far as the Warriors, just the offense was disgraceful tonight. I know Curry had 20-something points. He was inefficient. Just the Knicks really just took them out of their game, and they really controlled the pace and tempo, and that's what Thibodeau likes to do with that team. So this was just a pathetic loss, especially coming off the high of winning in LA. Now what? The Lakers beat Atlanta. Now you're back to the 10 seed. So it's just one of those debacles, man, with this team. I'm really disgusted about how they played all year at home. They can't get continually going. They lose games they're not supposed to lose. And now you got a stretch here of games where you ship it, but the Lakers, they're dominant at home. So trying to make up ground there, take the 9th seed, I don't know. So basically you're playing for the 10th seed and hope the Lakers lose and slip up, and maybe you can catch them and overtake them. So it's going to come down to the 9th, 10th seed. I just don't see this team, either of these teams going up to the 8th seed anymore. I want to get your thoughts now in terms of how does Steve Kerr get these guys locked in and focused to play at Chase Center like they do on the road? Because this is pathetic to be 17-18 at Chase Center, one of the best home crowds and home court advantages. I'll take your thoughts off and just discuss it tonight. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. I was just looking at the home stuff, and I mentioned this. The Warriors are one of 4 teams in the Western Conference, 4 that are under 500 at home. There are 2 teams right now that are not even in the top 10 that are 4 and 6.5 games better than the Warriors. The Rockets and Jazz are both better than the Warriors at home by a significant margin. I mean, Utah's 20-15, so that's a 3-game difference, and the Rockets are 23-11. The Rockets 23-11 is actually the 4th best home record in the Western Conference. And so, I mean, you look at that. I mean, they are 6.5 games better than the Warriors are at home. That ain't gonna cut it. Like, it's 17, and as far as that, it's like I do think teams do tend to coast a little bit, I think, or want to coast a little bit at home. Whereas on the road, you come out and you put your imprint on the game early if you're going to have any chance, any shot at being competitive. And that's what the Knicks did. Thank you, appreciate that. I appreciate that. I got people bringing me brews. I got people bringing me another Kolsch tonight. What is going on here? That is.
Come on, everybody. As much as I offer to buy the people to get his due, but I know, like we got to let him buy it for you. What are we doing here?
I offered. Well, and there was a wonderful gentleman who was at the game, and he came by Harmonic, and he was sitting at a table right as we got started. We're always a little bit scattered in that first segment, right? Like trying to make sure everything's working right technically. And he was enjoying the first segment. He was like, "Hey, how are you?" And I kind of motioned to him like, I got you. And then right before we went to that first break, he got up. He said, "JD, I love you. Gotta run. Have a good." And I was like, "Oh, I was gonna buy you a brew." So if you're driving home, I appreciate you. Thanks for listening, and we appreciate you here, Dubs OT with JD on KNBR, the sports leader, and Harmonic Brewing appreciates you as well. All the great folks out here. But how do you find motivation, Greg? How do you find motivation on the home floor? I mean,
you look at what you are
just,
in the standings. I don't know. That was my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean it shouldn't be that hard. It really shouldn't be that hard. It's odd. The lack of focus, the defense, like the Warriors just play more forcefully, more focused, more energized. They hustle better. It's kind of inexplicable in some ways that how bad that the Warriors have been, and I'm not used to it. I mean, I'm really not, given how dominant they've been over the years over at Chase.
Yeah, I mean,
so
take the Lakers game, JD, and 808 KNBR. Please continue to chime in on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line and the phone lines, as well as Twitch, YouTube, X, etc. KNBR app. We're basically, what I'm saying is we're everywhere. But what I was going to say to you is that I actually thought, even though Anthony Davis was out for that second half against the Lakers game, and that was a major factor, I do think the Warriors did a really nice job of taking advantage of the lack of post presence, and it's some really polished offensive sequences, getting high percentage looks and executing patient but effective offensive possessions. That was like the complete opposite what we saw tonight.
They got what they wanted on the interior. I mean, it ended up being 50-50, but they got what they wanted on the interior. And Trace Jackson Davis was a huge part of that. How many lobs to Trace? I mean, Trace Jackson Davis was 9 for 9 in this one. And they were all right at the basket. I mean, they were all within 3 feet of the rim tonight. When Kuminga was challenged, tonight was one of the nights where Kuminga did get challenged more at the rim, and he's been challenged more at the rim lately. He hit a couple of those little mid-range jumpers, but I'm looking at Kuminga 6 of 10 in the paint tonight, which usually when Kuminga's right, it's 9 of 10 or it's 8 of 10. So he got challenged a couple of times there. One of those jumpers were inside the paint. One of those jumpers was outside of the paint as well. But yeah, with the mid-range of Chris Paul in this game as well. I mean, the Warriors were doing the job. Chris Paul hit 4 mid-range jumpers. I mean, he was just cashing them in. I mean, it looked like Chris Paul of 6 years ago. Just jumper after jumper after jumper, auto-freaking-matic. But it was the 3 ball that the Warriors didn't have in this one. Although, again, 38.9%. But it wasn't the guys that the Warriors typically need to have appropriate nights that had appropriate nights. It was Steph, got his 27, 8 of 20. It was Kuminga got his 16, 7 of 13, aside from a couple possessions late in the second quarter, didn't have it defensively tonight. It was Clay, 5 of 10 from 3, but 1 of 5 on 2s, in this one. So it was Draymond 1 of 7. It was Pajemski not providing much. It was the awful Wiggins 2 for 9, as I already mentioned. So they just didn't get enough from the right guys tonight to be able to win this game. Let's pause here. 808 KNBR, the number. We still got a couple of lines open. Text messages are coming up next. YouTube and Twitch chat coming up next. Sounds of Silver coming up next. Good crowd on hand tonight at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. We appreciate everybody out here, but that's all coming up. It is Dubs OT with JD, KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
That's why you don't play defense with your face.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, back here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. It is Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. Knicks 119, Warriors 112. Warriors 17 and 18 at home. Yuck. 17 and 18 at home. That is, and I mentioned it earlier, that is the 12th worst record in the Western Conference at home. 12th worst record in the Western Conference. For a team that's been dominant over the years, not only at Oracle, but at Chase Center, the Warriors just not getting it done on the home floor. And I think that's going to be one of the many things that they look back on when they look at this season, maybe not meeting the expectations. I had somebody, Greg, as we bring in Greg Silver here for Sounds of Silver, and I wanted to throw this one at you. Somebody came down my road on Twitter for saying that the Warriors haven't met their own preseason expectations because they haven't been, in part, good at home. And 17 and 18 is terrible at home. And this person says, Alex in Atlanta, what preseason expectations? Realistically, they were probably going to be a 44-win team that had to come out of the play-in. They're on pace to win about 44 and maybe win a play-in game or two. Anyone who believed otherwise might as well have been buying snake oil. The Warriors freaking believed they were better than that. That's the point, Alex in Atlanta. The Warriors were the 6th seed last year. Yes, only a 44-win team. You knew 44, at least you thought 44 wasn't going to be good enough for 6. And it's not going to be good enough for 6. 48 might not be good enough for 6 this year because the Western Conference has improved. There are many better teams. But the Warriors thought, with the addition of Chris Paul, with Kuminga's third-year leap, with a couple of rookies that they thought had the potential, and they did say this in the offseason. They thought Pajemski and Trace Jackson-Davis had the potential to be able to come in and play closer to immediately than Kuminga and Moody and James Wiseman had been able to do. So you add all of that up, a bounce back from Wiggins, like another year of Steph's prime. Like the Warriors firmly believed, Greg, that they were going to be a much better team than the 44-win team that they were a year ago, and a team that would not be right now on March the 18th with 15 games to go, staring up at what is a 3.5-game deficit, 4 in the loss column to that 6th spot, which is currently held by Sacramento.
Yeah, they didn't have standards thing is ridiculous to me. I mean, they were a team that was a couple games away from the conference finals last year. The chemistry was terrible. They've won 4 championships. They won one 2 years ago. Yeah, I don't know if that was a quote-unquote championship team by their standard, but they still did it, and you still got your core, and you don't sign Draymond Green to another extension that they did if they don't think that they could run it back. And they all think, by the way, I'm going to say this just because I've got a little bit of shorter patience tonight after that game. They didn't bring in Chris Paul because he was supposed to be the magical potion answer. They brought in Chris Paul because he is the opposite of Jordan Poole, a grown-up who was probably going to be a big boy to run the offense without Steph Curry, and somebody you could pay for 1 year and not 4.
No doubt. No doubt about it.
Can we all wrap our heads around that one?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think for the most part, and again, it's taken the Warriors until the post-All-Star break portion of the schedule to figure out the right combinations and everything. And I think right now they have Chris Paul in the perfect role. Did they have Chris Paul in the perfect role at the beginning of the season? I don't know, although he came out and, other than his shot, was playing pretty well at the beginning of the season. He's kind of figured it out since the All-Star break, and I think he's benefited from a little more order in terms of where the Warriors are at as far as their overall rotation. But I think and look, some may think I'm crazy. You probably don't, but I think Chris Paul has worked for the Warriors this year more than he hasn't worked for the Warriors this year. And like you look up and it's not like it hasn't been. And part of this is because Steph Curry's only missed 6 games or whatever. But like Chris Paul has been, I think, exactly what they've wanted him to be, especially since the All-Star break when he's been in more of a true 20 to 25-minute backup point guard role.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he was brought in for specific purposes, and I think he's largely delivered on those purposes. He's not a perfect player. He injured his hand, and you weren't going to expect him to play 82 games. You probably weren't going to expect him to play 60 games, if I'm being honest, when you look at the recent history of a Chris Paul. But I also think that there's a double standard, too, of the young players have come along so nicely, and they should have been playing more all along. Chris Paul's been a big part in helping that aspect of the team out, too, JD.
Yeah, I think he has been for sure. And look, I mean, I get it. For a lot of Warrior fans, you're either in or out. And Chris Paul, because he was a villain for so long, he's out, and you're just not going to like him and all of that. But he hasn't hurt this team nearly as much as he's helped this team. I'll just kind of leave it at that. What do we got as far as Sounds of Silver goes tonight? I know it's a little bit more of a truncated edition of Sounds of Silver tonight. I know Steph had just come up to the podium, but let's dive into what we have as far as the post-game cuts.
Yeah, we're going to actually skip on Steph Curry. Cole has done a tremendous job cutting up sound tonight, but he just aired on NBC, and we have our cuts set aside, and I know we got to
take the night off, Cole. Take the rest of the night off.
About 20 minutes left in the show. So I'm going to start this one off with a pregame cut, actually, because I did have Cole roll this one in, and I said, I hope we don't need to use this. This is Steve Kerr before the game on the Warriors' struggles at home and what he thought about it.
Have you found any pattern, any rhyme or reason as to why the home has been so tough?
No, and I couldn't find any pattern last year when we couldn't win on the road, and we were unbeatable at home practically. So it's just weird. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. We've always been a good home team, and it doesn't mean we can't start being one now. So that's what I told the guys today. This is the one thing we haven't really done this year is control our home court. That's a goal of ours here, down the stretch to take care of business here.
Bum, bum, ba, bum. Like all right. It didn't mean you had to be a bad home team. And then you go out and you lose to the Knicks without having the freaking lead in the game at any point at home. Like, it's over. It's like, and Greg, we've talked about this. There's now 6 home games left. They've got Memphis, Indiana, Dallas, 2 Utahs, and the Pelicans between now and April 14th. And there's 6 games left, and we were talking about it when it was 15. Can they go 13-2? Can they go 12-3? Can they go 11 to go? Can they go 10-1? Can they go 9-2? 8 to go. Can they go 7-1? Can they go 6-2? Nope. Lost to the Bulls, lost to the Spurs, lost to Denver. Like they lost to Sacramento. Just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen at this point. So yeah, maybe they can get on a little roll here, but I think the time has come where I'm going to have to just stop asking for them to get on that roll, Greg.
Let's go to the next cut because it's Steve Kerr, his first post-game cut, and recapping the loss, calling it the exact opposite start as the previous game against the Knicks, which was, as you know, without OG Anunoby, without Julius Randle, but it was on the road. Here we go.
Yeah, it was almost the exact opposite of our game in New York a couple of weeks ago, where I think we started out that game 14-0. And, I thought the Knicks were great tonight, right from the very beginning. They took it to us. They were physical. They played with great force. And I thought Tom made a great move starting McBride, with OG out. Putting McBride in there, space the floor, and obviously he got going, and they had us really spread out early, and we knew they were going to come in and play hard. After we got them a couple weeks ago, that's kind of their identity. They're a hard-playing team, and they took it to us tonight.
They're a hard-playing team, and all you needed to know, Greg, about the Knicks, and we had the caller earlier, I think it was Mark and Milbury earlier, all you needed to know about the Knicks was what I saw them do in Sacramento the other night. The Warrior game ended, and we started Dubs OT, and we kind of got through Dubs OT. Big win for the Warriors, and I'm watching the Knicks play in Sacramento the other night. They held the Kings to 91 points. They held the Kings, who usually have 91 points at the end of the third quarter on a lot of nights, to 91 for the game. And Anunoby played, but he was 1 for 8, but he was still a force defensively. But I'm thinking at that point, the Knicks are not going to be a pushover. Do not think the Knicks are going to be any pushover, because a lot of these teams that have had the Sacramento, San Francisco back-to-back have played, when they've played well at Sac and almost won, they've also played well at Golden State and won. We just saw it with Chicago, right? Chicago went into Sac, won. They come to Chase, they win. Like it's happened a lot. And Memphis is another example. Memphis just lost in Sacramento tonight, but they were up 2 in the final 30 seconds. But yeah, I didn't think the Knicks were going to be a pushover. And I really thought that the Warriors were going to come out and have more urgency than they had tonight. And it just wasn't there. It just wasn't there, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in segment number 2, I don't know why you'd think Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, etc. is a group to take your foot off the gas pedal against. Not the most talented group in the league, but they are darn gritty, and they are pretty talented. It's just maybe not the talent of a KD, Booker, and Beal, or a Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, Holiday. But, yeah, that's just me. Let's keep moving. 2 more. This one is Trace Jackson Davis. He also doesn't know why the Warriors are struggling at home. He said the Knicks got comfy and came out swinging.
Yeah, I have no idea, honestly. I feel like we came in locked in. We had a good shoot around. Start of the game was a little rough, but after we got into the swing of things, I just think we started a little slow, and they got comfortable. So we got to make teams uncomfortable early.
Yeah, they did not make anybody uncomfortable early, and that's the story of the whole game. Is the Knicks, who are not a great offensive team. I know their numbers are up in terms of ball movement and all of that, but they're not a great offensive team. They're built on defense. They're built on physicality, and the Warriors just allowed them to gain and that's been a common theme this year, Greg. The Warriors allow teams to get going in Chase Center, and then when you need a big stop, you can't get it because they're confident, and you've got random dudes like Miles McBride having career nights, and they're feeling themselves, and they feel like they're back playing in freaking high school, and every wide open shot's going to be going in. But you can't let Miles McBride feel comfortable in your building. You just can't do it. And if you do it, you're in bad shape. So yeah, it's all about the beginning of the game. Warriors got down 20-6. Hey, as our buddy Bobby Fitz would say, Warriors got down 20-6, and then they were a +7 the rest of the game. They won the rest of the game after the first 6 minutes. Well, you got your ass kicked in the first 6 minutes to the point where you still lost the game, and now you're 10th in the Western Conference.
That's some good math, man. Hey, by the way,
I digress.
I don't know if you brought this up, and I apologize if I am repeating an element of the show, but this one...
I'm a mess tonight, Greg. I'm a mess. I'm not going to lie. I'm a freaking mess tonight.
Well, this one went over my head as I was running some sports phone, and I see people talking about Moses Moody in the chat. I guess Anthony Slater put out there that Moses Moody was out with left knee soreness for the Warriors, and I think that was a second half kind of thing. So I guess there was a reason why he wasn't getting any of those second half minutes. I saw people saying he should start the fourth quarter and everything, but I guess there's our explanation.
No, he was ruled out, and I actually had tweeted that as well. But I appreciate you. You admitted you weren't necessarily paying attention. But yes, Moses Moody was ruled out in the second half. So yeah, and For anybody who was wondering, he played about 8 minutes. Steve Kerr did say before the game that he wanted to get Moody some minutes because he had played so well in New York back when the Warriors got the win at the Garden. And even though he wasn't in the rotation Saturday, he wanted to get him some time in this one. And then, he went out, and it was after halftime, basically went in at halftime. And after halftime, it was the knee soreness, wasn't going to be able to play in the second half at all at that point. So, tonight was not a why Pajemski 25 and Moody 8 doesn't apply tonight, because I do think Moody would have played. I think Moody probably would have played instead of Wiggins some in the second half and then gotten an opportunity, if he had played well to maybe finish down the stretch in that one. But no, good looking out on that, Greg, because I had not mentioned it on the show. I did tweet it out, but had not yet mentioned it on the show. So I appreciate you bringing that up. What one final cut? What do we got?
One final cut, and we're actually going to do it. It is Stephen Curry, because shout out.
Oh, I love it.
Shout out to
Cole's
Cole,
the man.
Yeah, shout out to Cole, my diabetic brother, type 1 for all you ignorant folks out there. This is Steph Curry saying he doesn't care.
Learned something new about both of you today.
I thought we knew each other. I guess I've been keeping secrets from you, JD. That one's on me. I'll take the blame. But let's go to Steph Curry. He says he doesn't care about what playoff seed they are. They need to focus on playing consistent. I got news for you, buddy. You're not really a playoff seed at all right now. Here's what he had to say.
Maybe a week or two ago, 60 was the motivation. Right now, I think I could care less about where you're at. It's just the consistency of how we're playing. That's the most important thing, because honestly, who cares what seed you are? If you play like we did tonight, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, doesn't matter. You're not going to get very far. So that's the perspective and the focus. It doesn't really matter where the standards are.
I couldn't have said it any better, Greg. I could not have said it any better, Steph.
Yeah, that was actually really well said.
I mean, if you play like you did tonight, you could be anything, and you're going home. It's going to be night-night. Now, that being said, you play like you have on the road. Maybe Steph wants to weigh in on our question of the night. You play like you did on the road, and maybe you can win a couple of games in a play-in tournament type of setting. But I think the sustainability longer term over the Warriors' ability to be able to make an extended run, I just think it's going to wind up being too taxing. But Steph's right on point. I think that's the downside of being in the position that the Warriors find themselves in now, is that you're going to have to work your ass off too much. You may get through it, but then how much are you going to have left once you get to an actual 7-game series? And so I think that's where it becomes, we've seen night to night, the Warriors don't always have it, home and away. And so I think all of those, the things that get you beat in the regular season often are the things that wind up getting you beat in the playoffs as well. Your greatest strengths can be your great weaknesses as well. So good stuff there, Greg. Appreciate it. Appreciate Cole for locking that up. As it is Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader, as the Warriors lose tonight to the Knicks, 119-112. Back in action Wednesday against Memphis. And look, a couple more home games, a couple more opportunities to get off the schneid for the Warriors in Chase Center on Wednesday and Friday before going right back out on the road for a big-time 5-gamer. And, there comes a point, I know a couple of nights ago we were talking about the Warriors potentially making a run, and Steve Kerr had mentioned it, which is why we brought it up. It really does feel like it's last stand time as far as the Warriors trying to be able to get on that kind of a run. Let's dive into the YouTube chat, Greg. We have not done that really at any point here in the first hour plus of the program. So let's get it rolling here. Goo Goo Gaga got us started here early. Pods 0 points in 25 minutes. Like, come on, dude. Rebel to Sounds. Pajemski's got no offense. The Warriors are finding they can get away with Pajemski not scoring on nights where Steph and Clay score, on nights where Kuminga's efficient. on nights where Wiggins brings something to the table offensively and the bench plays pretty well. What they're finding is the nights where Podziemski doesn't score and the other guys have off nights, it's harder to keep him out on the floor with regularity. Regulator, none of the starters played well tonight. I think none of them did. None of them did. Steph, no, 8 of 20. Podziemski, no. Reasons we just mentioned. Kuminga, no. Even though he did score the basketball, I don't think Kuminga did anything else well tonight other than score 16 points. Like I thought this was again, but Kuminga's at that level now where he could not play well and still score 16 points, which in some ways is kind of a positive. But this was not a good Kuminga game. Wiggins was worse, and Draymond was worse. Kuminga was still the second best Warriors starter tonight because he did have 16 points in a night where they did struggle to score. And Podziemski, Wiggins, and Draymond all far worse. But yeah, not a good night other than the points from Kuminga. TJD played well. Alpha Nickelberry, our friend, chiming in. JD, this team lacks intensity and consistency. Definitely got to retool in the offseason and get back into contention. That's going to be what's so fascinating is how much of the positives do the Warriors take from this 15-5. And I'm basically just calling it the 18 games before Steph got hurt and the 2 games since. I'm going to fuse those together basically as one. This 15-5 20-game stretch. How much of the positives do the Warriors take as real versus, you know what? It ain't really real. And we're going to have to pick and choose other ways to potentially get better. Robert, best player was Trace Jackson Davis by a mile. No disagreement there. Bill M., I don't understand still. I think he's talking about Kuminga, why I only played 26 minutes. Shot 53%. Wiggins shot 25, yet they almost played the same amount of minutes. Again, I'm gonna say this a lot, and Greg knows where I'm going. They don't play the same position. Like, it is not Wiggins or Kuminga. It's not. And people have to get that through their head. It's not Wiggins or Kuminga. The Warriors, as great as Kuminga has played over the last 2 months, do not view him as a 3. I'm going to say it every night. I'm going to get on my soapbox. I'm going to say it every night until the Warriors start playing Kuminga at the 3 and they start playing well. So when TJD, and this was kind of the conundrum, Greg, tonight, when TJD was playing well, and you want to have Draymond out there because between him and Steph, you're always going to have Draymond and Steph out there, then that meant basically Kuminga on a night where he wasn't great couldn't finish the game because he's that created its own weird set of new problems for the Warriors. CA, our buddy CA, got to give it up to CP tonight. Regulator also adding Hart, played 48, McBride 47. Tibbs is a bad man. Bill M. also on Kuminga JD doesn't like me because I'm a Kuminga supporter and he's not. I'm not one. I like you, Bill. M. One, I like you. So that's BS right out of the chute. That's just
I can confirm that JD dislikes you.
I like Bill M. Actually, and again, I am not a Kuminga supporter. And he says, and he knew where I was going. I don't care. He plays a different position than Wiggins. Wiggins has taken away from him. He really hasn't. Only when Wiggins has played the 4. And there was enough data early. Wiggins has hardly played the 4 over the last 2 months. So that also factors in. But when they were playing the same position, it was when Wiggins was coming off the bench and predominantly playing the 4. Douglas Mikes, this team is what their record indicates. They're not a bad team, just far from a championship team, far from championship material. A lot of us have known this for months. Maybe others will finally admit it. Yeah, I mean, tonight is the kind of night that proves it. As well. I'm all for TJD. I know people chiming in. TJD has to and be recognized as the Warriors' official 5. Again, he's the backup 5. But what they're going to have to figure out, and again, this relates to Kuminga. If TJD starts at the 5, then Draymond starts at the 4, and what do you do with Kuminga? Like, that is a legitimate question that the Warriors have and have to be able to figure out. Douglas Mikes, TJD can start, JD, but that means Kuminga back to the bench. No, you can't bring Kuminga off the bench. He's too big a part of their scoring at this point. Joe H., Wiggins with a total of 5 points. He actually ended up with 7. 2 garbage time points for Wiggins. Actually,
as someone that has defended Wiggins pretty hard over the last month, especially
he was
with
really
the personal
bad
issues,
tonight.
He stunk.
He was really bad tonight. He was one of the worst players on the floor tonight. No doubt. But again, Wiggins has not been bad every single night. Like, again, on the nights where Wiggins is bad, people act like Wiggins has been bad every single night for the last 2 months, and that's just inaccurate. YK, Pods or Wiggins can go to the bench. I know there are a lot of people that want to put Clay back into the lineup. I was reading the numbers before the game, small sample size, but Clay's been awesome off the bench. He's been awesome, and he played well tonight off the bench. So do you really want to potentially mess that up? I don't think you do at this point. But then what do you do? Andis Brown, Yo Greg, JD, and the other guy. Do we want to give the other guy his just due tonight? Let's make sure we give. There's a couple other guys.
This is the first Dubs OT for Ryan McCarthy, one of our newest hires.
Right.
We're bringing him in a couple of batches. So we've had Kyle Chung here,
Ryan.
but Ryan,
I'd give you a standing ovation, but Ryan, appreciate that. Is that an Oregon hoodie he's got on?
He's a Duck.
Okay, that's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not bad. It's not good. It's okay.
I saw the color combination and I thought, is that a Sac State hoodie? I was like, oh, is that? I say we would be instant friends. No, I kid. Pods is a damn statue on defense. Again, Pajemski's a willing defender, but that doesn't mean he's always a great defender. We'll end the comments portion on that note here as we enter the 11 o'clock hour. We are going to be able to go a little bit beyond 11, so let's get some spots in, Greg, and come back. I hope you don't have like one of those 10-minute breaks ready. I hope this is like a normal-ish break. Mickey D tonight chiming in also. Draymond had no fire tonight. Yeah, Draymond didn't have it tonight. Draymond did not have it tonight. So it's, and the Warriors need Draymond to be on it, to be the best version of themselves. So more comments on the YouTube chat coming up. We will get into some fun with numbers and call it a night. Couple of text messages as well. Quick break though. Knicks get the best of the Warriors tonight, 119-112. It is KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, we're back here at Harmonic Brewing. Come on over here. Come on over. It is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. We're out at Harmonic Brewing. Cheers to everybody. Austin, get in here. I want to thank Austin Scott. Say hi to the people. You're live on YouTube and Twitch. Yeah, all love. Greg Silver. He's. I already forgot my guy's name. Ryan, was it McCarthy? Ryan McCarthy? Yeah, I remembered his last name, but it was like remember the guy remember that crappy outfielder that Farhan signed? Was it Joe McCarthy? Who was the guy? Remember there was a McCarthy that was terrible, like a left-handed hitting first baseman, left fielder. He just stunk. I was like, McCarthy, it's McCarthy. Our Oregon guy. He's a Duck. He's got his he's got his guy. All right, that's good. Thanks, appreciate it.
I was
Austin doing a great job.
And say, do you like our statue in the back? Because Dave had not moved for a minute straight, and he finally turned his head, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, Cole back there, Dave back there. We've got the Manquarium back there. They're just kind of everybody's just kind of floating around tonight. No, we appreciate it. Everybody's working hard. And trying to make the best of what was a tough night for the Dubs as they lose to the Knicks tonight at Chase, 119-112. Fun with numbers, Greg. Let's dive into it. I want to start with Trayce Jackson-Davis. We're going to go positive, okay? And we got a couple of notes from Elias tonight, the Elias Sports Bureau, and fun with numbers. Trayce Jackson-Davis, the first Warriors rookie in the shot clock era. Do you know when the first year of the shot clock was, Greg? It was slightly before your time. But do you know when the first year of the shot clock era was?
72.
1954.
I should have listened to Dave. He said it.
1954. So it was a little before Greg Silver's time, a little before JD's time as well. And actually, I think if you add the two of us together, it's still a little bit before our time. First Warriors rookie in the shot clock era to be 9 for 9 or better from the field in a game. Trayce Jackson-Davis, the only times that players in the shot clock era have gone 9 for 9 or better in a game. TJD, Derek Lively of Dallas had a 9 for 9 in December. Darren Collison had a 10 for 10 back in 2010. And then Jonas Jerebko, remember him? He also did it in
one of the best Warrior buzzer beaters of the decade, man.
Yes, he did. That one in Utah. Yes, he did. 9 of 9. Jerebko had a 9 of 9. And so, yeah, incredible stuff. And so, yeah, unbelievable. The 8th, incredible stuff there. Other Warriors to have done it, and I'm trying to think, was there an update? I guess maybe there was an update to this. He was the first Warriors rookie. Okay, so other Warrior players to do this are Ron Williams in 1970. You got to go Tom Meschery in 1964, Ron Williams, 72, Lester Connor, 85, Chris Mullen did it. Chris Mullen was 11 for 11 in 1990. Draymond Green was 9 for 9 in 2016. Jonathan Kuminga did it about 2 months ago against Atlanta on January the 24th, and then Trayce Jackson-Davis tonight. So rare air for Trayce Jackson-Davis with the 9 of 9.
You know, that's the exact list
tonight.
I was thinking too when you were reading off names. I was thinking of all those guys exactly.
Unbelievable. But I mean, let's just go back the last 35 years, 34 years. Chris Mullen, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Trayce Jackson-Davis. That's good company. Like, it's good company. And TJD continues to be somebody who's making an impact. I did want to go back into the YouTube chat because our buddy Bill M. coming down my road, JD, Kuminga played 26 minutes tonight. Ridiculous. I'm not even going to disagree with that. I'm not even going to disagree with that, as well as Kuminga's played of late, even though he didn't play well tonight. But you have to look at why he didn't play more than 26. It had nothing to do with Wiggins. It had to do with TJD. TJD played well enough to where he was playing the 5. And if you want Draymond on the floor, then Kuminga's not going to be on the floor because the Warriors don't view him as a 4. They view him as a 3. So Kuminga has to be the player that is going to be he's going to have to be either you're going to have to take Draymond and put him on the bench, which you can make a case Draymond should have been on the bench tonight, or Kuminga is going to be somebody on a night where he doesn't play well that he's not going to be out there. Quickly with fun with numbers, and then we'll call it a night here. Steph, 27, team high, 48th 20-plus point game of the season, but it was not a great night for Steph. Career high tying 19 for TJD. At a team-high 9 boards. He also had 3 blocks. I mean, TJD's making an impact, and he's making the case to play more. 18 for Klay Thompson off the bench in 11 games as a reserve this season. Klay's averaging 20 off the bench on 47% shooting, 45% from 3 with 3 boards and 2 assists in 27 minutes. So I think, Greg, you can agree or disagree. I think Klay's found his sweet spot coming off the bench, and the Warriors probably don't want to mess with that.
Yeah, but that said, when you had Pajemski out and who was the other one out? Oh, and Curry, obviously, then you got to put him in the lineup. Like, you're not going to jump Lester Quinones over Klay just because the bench thing is working.
No doubt, and I think it is reaching a point where you have to start considering it. I think that's real if Pajemski's going to keep putting up goose eggs, as he did tonight. Andis Brown, I know Kerr doesn't want to say it, but Pods has hit the rookie wall, which is understandable. I think that's fair. There are a lot of people are saying, hey, I like Pods, but Pods may be the guy they need to sub out. Douglas Mikes with the Kerr quote, Pods helps us connect. Douglas Mikes, connect to a 500 record. Also, Douglas Mikes adding, anybody that says we should trade Wiggins has to give a good alternative to replace him. You can't just say trade him. Yeah, that's no doubt. Has to be part of the equation. And I think the Warriors are going to have a Wiggins conversation. Funky fresh flow. Kuminga wasn't focused and poised. Pointless to play him, especially being young and emotional. Yeah, I don't think tonight was the best Kuminga game, but again, live and learn. He's still one of their best players, and I think one of their most important players on the roster to this particular point. Enrique Rivera, just a mediocre performance from the Dubs. JD mentioned it earlier. This is from Andis Brown. They really need a big who can shoot the 3 and play D. That's the only way Kuminga is going to play the 3, is if the Warriors get a big that can defend on the interior, but then step out and shoot the 3 at an extremely high level. A lot of great comments tonight on the YouTube chat. Appreciate the new look YouTube chat as well. Tremendous new look on YouTube and Twitter and everybody, from Michael Connell to Greg Silver. Appreciate everybody and the way that the effort that they've all put into that. All right, that's going to do it. Greg, wonderful effort tonight.
I got one more number for you, actually.
I've actually got one more for you, but I'm going to let you go first.
Josh Hart played the entire game tonight, and
awesome.
He is the first
guy to
player.
do it this season.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Did I just steal your number? Did I just steal that from you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Whatever, man. You're on my Bill M list now.
I owe you a beer. I owe you more than one just for being great. I owe you a beer. We're even. I owe you a beer. For me to cut you off and take your stat, that's a flagrant 2. That's an ejection.
No, it's okay. We just owe each other beers now.
I might just close the laptop up and just end the show. We might just end the show abruptly. My number for you was, hey, the Giants signed Blake Snell to a 2-year, $62 million contract. That was my number. Terrible joke. Good number. Terrible joke. He has an opt-out as well. So for Greg and for Ryan and for Overnight Dave and for Cole I'm JD, Austin Scott here as well. We're going to talk to you Wednesday following the Dubs and the Grizzlies. Rough one tonight, but this has been Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson. Thanks to everybody at Harmonic, Grace, and Mike. Excellent effort from everybody out here. Jimmy, we had Copes and Tolbert out here earlier. We'll be back Wednesday. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Long rebound. Hart punches it ahead to DiVincenzo for a three, and it's good. What a heads-up play by Hart. Literally punching the ball forward.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
We got Steph Curry. Honestly, who cares what seed you are if you play like we did tonight? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, doesn't matter. You're not going to get very far. So
I thought tonight was one of the worst Wiggins games we've seen in recent memory.
Great! I hate it! The only flow that's going is down a toilet.
A lot of games are stung this year. We've had a lot of heartbreaking losses.